Today is July 14th, 2020, and here with us today is Christian Toledo, who is from the Philippines, and he is joining the Houston Asian American Archive to speak to us about his life stories. So thank you very much, Christian, for spending time and contributing your stories to our archive. To start, can you tell us when and where were you born?
Sure. Thank you for having me here as well. So yeah, my name is Christian Toledo. I was born in the Philippines in Cavite City in January 1993. And hospital was like Cavite Medical Center. It's like a small hospital. It's not like a big hospital.
Great. Can you share with us some of your childhood memories?
Yeah, growing up, Cavite is in it's like near the sea, but it's not like beaches. It's more like a lot of fishermen, a lot of like salt farms, uh, which I think isn't that common in here because not a lot of people know how salt is made. So it's like I grew up near a place where they actually make salt from like seawater. They dry it and like all day in there they let the seawater dry and then they harvest the salt and stuff like that. And then like the barangay or like the small like unit of uh it's like smaller than a municipality. So as a barangay, it's what it's called in the Philippines. I grew up. It's called Barangay Santa Isabel, and actually a lot of people in there are like also moves to the U.S. So like when I moved here like 3 years ago, I attended this party of people from our barangay who moved here, and there's like 300 people in one place, and they all like flew from like Florida, from LA, and like they're all in one place. So that's how tight the community was. But it was like a very diverse, especially in like social status. Like there are people like wealth is like not evenly distributed in the barangay at all. So that's why there's like still salt farmers who like make very little money, and there's like a lot of like rich people who live there too. And like I remember there's this like one mainstream actress who lives there now who like I just recently found out like that she was friends with my because like you know how Asian parents never tell you stuff and like you just find out and stuff like that. And another like recently that I found like a few years ago, I only found out through a movie that my great grandfather was part of the Philippine Revolution, but he was more of like he was rooting more on the American side rather than the Philippine side. So it's not the proudest historical reference or relationship that I have, but yeah. So my both my parents grew up there, and they actually live like a bridge across from each other. So it's just that close. So like all my roots are from that same barangay from Cavite. It's also like historically Cavite City is or Kawit Cavite, which the barangay was, is the birthplace of Philippine independence. Yeah, so I always see the house of the first Philippine president on my way to school and stuff like that. So my school was also super rural, and it's like actually three sides of the school were facing like farms. So it's like you look out the window and you see like carabaos, you see like storks, and you see like the ocean. And like for me, it was like a very normal thing, but like studying in Manila, the capital of the Philippines, studying there, like it's super different, and like sharing experiences with other people who lived in the city was very different as well. But yeah, so I grew up there, spent up to high school, and my mom worked for the government for the Bureau of Customs in the Philippines, and my dad worked in LA. So he was a court clerk, and he was there for like 30 years before he retired. Philippines. And the deal was, or it's not a deal, it's like the setup was, uh, when we were younger, uh, one year my dad would go home, and then the next year we would go visit him in LA. And so that went on till like we were old enough not to get like the airplane discount, plane ticket discount. So when that happened, only my dad went home, and then it was a long time before we got to visit the US again. And yeah, so uh, I went to college in the University of the Philippines, Manila, where my sister, I have two sisters, where both my sisters also went to school. So my eldest sister is a doctor, and my other sister is a lawyer. So I'm like the black sheep. I don't think I have to say that anymore. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure. But yeah, I don't think, since all of us went there, I don't think my parents like actually like recognizes that it's like a big deal to kind of get in there, because it's like the best university. And uh yeah, so we all went there. My sister went to med school in another university. My other sister went to law school in another university. I went to take my in also still in UP. My undergrad was in Philippine arts, and my majors were cultural heritage and arts management. So that's cool. Because but I was supposed to go into dentistry. Then like a year after, I was supposed to shift into dentistry, but then I decided I wanted to stay with the arts track, so I stayed there. I had fun, and I joined a lot of organizations as well, uh, like the musicians organizations, because I used to be in a band, and also like arts activism organizations and film organizations. Like I was more in organizations than with my like academics. I was one of those people. But yeah, after college, I applied for my MA, and I got accepted into University of the Philippines, Liman. So it's like an hour away. So it's like we're now like 2 hours away, 2 to 3 hours away from my hometown, which I still like. I still go back home every day, 6 hour or 5 to 6 hour commute every day. And my MA was in media studies, and my major was in film. So uh, back then I was also working for, let me know if I'm getting cut off because my internet kind of sucks right now. My major was in, yeah, media studies. I also worked for different organizations before. Like I had like an on the job training at the National Museum of the Philippines. And my first job after college was in uh, PAGCOR. It's like Philippine Gaming Association. So it's a lot of like casinos, but it's like the charity side of the casino. So whatever the casino makes, they give it away to like other people. And another job I had uh, was in the Museum of Contemporary Art and Design in Manila as well. I was there as an invigilator. So what we did was we basically helped install artworks, help build the exhibit, and then once the exhibit is built and the show is running, uh, we take note of like who's coming in. We gave tours. We gave we do condition reports on artworks. So it's like, did this artwork get damaged today? Yes or no? Or is it like too cold in this area? So a lot of like very simple paperwork. And so that was one of my first jobs. And also I also worked as an usher. in the university in the cultural center. So before I actually worked there as an employee, I was an usher because our office would have like shows, performances, film screenings. Thousands of people would go in and out, and we were guiding people. So it's basically just that. And yeah, so I went going back to University of Philippines Diliman. I went to take my MA in Media Studies, major in film. And while I was there, I was also working now full time for the Cultural Center of the Philippines. And my department was in arts education. And I was under the division that worked with cultural management. So basically, cultural management, what we do is we try to go to like different regions, different provinces, and help artists manage their own cities, help artists like be sustainable, help artists with like government paperwork like taxes and stuff because it's different than like a regular office job with everything's already handed to you. So yeah, uh, but then like 2 years after, I got moved to the another department which deals with workshops. So whenever we have like a film screening or a dance show or an orchestra, our division deals with the educational aspect of it. Like, is there like gonna be like a music workshop? Is there gonna be like a talk, a symposium, or a roundtable discussion with experts, stuff like that. So it was very diverse. Uh, I would say we did a lot of stuff, different stuff every year and throughout the year as well, because we work with like the seven arts, which is like visual arts, music, dance, film, literature, architecture, and theater. So it was all there. And we also conducted workshops for teachers. So we would fly in teachers from like different regions of the Philippines. We would fly them into Manila to teach them. And so they could go back to their regions and teach whatever they learned. And we all another thing we did was online workshops. So before like this was way before COVID-19, where everything's online. We would have regular artist talks online to like provinces that are like really far and can't go to Manila. So yeah, that's basically it. And after that as well, uh, I went freelance for film. I got to be like production designers in different films, and I also got to be a member of the Screenwriters Guild of the Philippines. So you know how there's like uh, Screenwriters Guild in America. So basically the Philippines version of that. I wasn't very active, but yeah, I just got out of it because like I stopped paying my dues when I moved to the US. I probably should go back to it. We'll see. But yeah, so a lot of the connections I just met with the film industry. I met like when I was taking my MA in UP. But the thing is, I didn't actually finish my MA. I moved to the US before like in my last semester. So yeah, that's my Philippine life in a nutshell.
Yeah, thank you so much for going through your life and saved me a lot of questions.
No,
And
very like I'm not like a good storyteller that way. Like it's all jumbled. But yeah, yeah. Feel free to ask questions if there's like, stuff that's not clear.
sure, sure. Actually, if we go back to a little bit, you mentioned your granddad was a writer, and he took on the perspectives on the U.S. Like, can you tell us more about that? Like, what was his background, and how does
My it was my great grandfather, so my dad's grandfather. And so there's this film. It's on Netflix now. It's called General Luna. So it's about this like the best general in the Philippines back in 1896, and his rival general, his name is Tomas Mascardo. So that's my great grandfather. And I mean, background, I kind of need to like do a background of Philippine like revolution history. So back then, the Philippine Revolution, there was this one side that was like uh, revolutionary side, and more of like the side. So reformist side, this was like more of the elite people uh, who wanted to side with the Americans because it's good for business, rather than the revolution, which is like we have to start all over again. So basically, there was one revolution, and then it split into two with the revolutionaries, and then the first president of the Philippines, Emilio Aguinaldo. So Emilio Aguinaldo, one of his generals, was my great grandfather, and like because these people were like working with the elite class, which is like I'm not like part of the elite or anything. So these people were working with the elite, and it was good for their business to be siding with the Americans, to be reformist rather than revolutionaries. So that's where he was. And like from history books that I read after that, I know that he released like, because 1896, we were just being handed down from the Spaniards to the Americans. The Philippines was being handed down from the Spaniards to the Americans because of the Treaty of Paris. So uh, when we were already under the Americans, my grandfather, great grandfather, turns out he released like two Spanish prisoners, and like I think he did it twice. And yeah, and that's not on the movies. That's just on the books. And then what happened was after we watched the movie, me and my sisters, we asked our dad if he knew like a Tomas Mascardo, and he said, "Oh, Tata Tomas," and like he just said it like it was someone close to him. Turns out it was his grandfather, but not directly. It was his grandfather's brother. So like technically also his grandfather, but yeah. So it was that close. So just makes me think like how close we are to history, and you know, uh, the world isn't that big from like the books to where we are now.
Yeah, for sure. Has it caused any kind of debate in your family, if you remember?
No, not really. It was just like a small thing to my dad because I bet he wasn't that close to him, but I know like a lot of my grand great grandfathers as well were also in the military. I'm not sure about how active they were, but after that, like my grandfather, both my grandfathers and both my grandparents on either side of the family, my mom's and my dad's side, none of them were in the military anymore. So yeah, I think it got cut off on that. But I do have a lot of like uncles who joined the U.S. Army who are now like in Florida, California, because it's basically like joining the military if you're Filipino, if you're like a generation before us Filipino, it's basically like an easy way to get like a US citizenship. And like a lot of stuff that they would recommend like lower generations like me is that join the military for 4 years and then get out and get like free education, get like $1 down payment for a house and stuff like that. So yeah, like I could see how it's like an easy way to get a lot of stuff here in the US.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. And do you have any like impact by your grandpa's film, great grandpa's film, like for your career in the cinematology?
Well, now not really, not directly, but it makes me want to work more on like education and history just to make up for to make up for it, and because when I moved here to the US and like I studied about Philippine culture, Philippine art, arts management, stuff like that. When I moved here to the US, I was culture shocked when I found out that there's like a lot of like Filipino Americans who actually want to learn about Philippine culture. Because in the Philippines, it's not that important to a lot of kids. Because like you would understand if like in a third world country, people would wanna worry about what to eat first, how to make money first, rather than culture. And it's really like no one's fault. But in here in the US, since like everyone has less stuff to worry about compared to the Philippines, like people are set up here with houses, with food, with education, with whatever. The only thing missing over here is like their actual Filipino roots, which is now they're longing for it. And now I feel like it's my role here. That's why I was brought here. I feel like it was my role to like try and help people, try to educate people with what I know and how to help them navigate through like their identity as a Filipino American, which I'm also trying to navigate because I only know more of the Filipino side rather than the American side. But yeah, there's a lot of conversations being taken, and just still also learning.
Yeah, that's really inspirational. And I was just wondering, since you're the black sheep in your family, and did you experience any conflicts in terms of your career choice?
Yes, I would say yes, because so the thing is, when my dad was working in the U.S., and my sisters were both in med school and law school, I was the only one living with my mom, and my dad would always tell me ever since I was young. My dad would always tell me that I was the man of the house, and I was like 5 years old. And so like yeah, so I would try to take care of my mom, like do everything she says, try to take care of my sisters if they need anything. I would be like from home and I would go to Manila or where they were just to give them their money or send them money or whatever they need. It's not my money, it's still my parents' money, but it's just like the effort of just going to them. It's all on me. And uh, when my dad retired, this was just after I graduated college. My dad retired, I was like, okay, my dad's here. I don't need to be like this responsible anymore. So I took my MA in film, which I did like for myself this time. And my commute was like 3 hours, and I had the class and I had the job, and like my family was uh like I was they were telling me that like I was uh like trying to escape my responsibilities in the house when I was just like feeling that I was like this time it's like my responsibilities to myself, and like I'm not even asking them for money, I'm not even asking them for anything. It's just like try not to stop me from whatever doing whatever I want to do, because I feel like I was trying to get somewhere and they just felt like I was playing around. Like people would actually pay me to travel and like shoot stuff with them, and they thought I was just like traveling for fun. But I was actually we were actually not sleeping and just shooting and doing everything. So yeah, I would feel like there's a conflict with that, and like I actually tried to fix it, and like I wrote my mom like a letter, like explaining my side, because like we're not like a confrontational family, and like our family doesn't talk. You know how it is being like Asian and stuff. And so I wrote a letter explaining that I'm not trying to like escape my responsibilities. I'm just trying to do stuff for myself this time rather than doing stuff for them. And they still didn't understand that. Like it was still like a bigger conflict, and I kind of gave up trying to explain. And also in my workplace, since we're working more with like we were in the background of artists. So even in our workplace, like when we try to be artists ourselves, it's not like uh, we still don't get the same respect as like actual artists. So basically, part of why like I actually like quit and just moved here. So it's kind of getting burnt out. I was kind of getting burnt out, and I feel like I wasn't going anywhere because a lot of factors trying to stop me. And yeah, I just felt like I had more freedom, like moving here and like trying to do that kind of stuff. But it's still like kind of when I see my other like colleagues over there actually making it, like seeing their names on Netflix and stuff like that, it's amazing. And like I wish I could be part of it. And like I know if I move there right now, there are jobs waiting for me, but like I still it would still be like a huge thing in the family and stuff like that. And here it's not as much.
Thank you for sharing. I'm just also wondering, given your own experience, how do you see this Asian identity between you and your parents as like first and second generation, I guess?
The weird thing about our family, I guess, is like I'm not really sure like if I'm a second generation because like I moved here and my father was already out of here. And so technically he's first generation and I'm second generation, but I didn't grow up here. So I guess I could be also first generation again. So I will try not to worry about like all the technicalities of it, but no, they're actually like really proud that we're here because the deal was if we didn't get into the University of the Philippines, we would go to college here. We would go to live with our dad in LA and try to get like UCLA or whatever. If we didn't get into the University of the Philippines, which we all got into, so plans changed, and yeah, now we're still here. Now we're here again.
Great. So you said one of the reasons that you come to the US in 2017 was to study cinema and arts management. Is there any other reason besides that?
Is it? It's not really directly to study because I went here basically to get another job, and like I wasn't moving here. I didn't think that I was gonna get into like the art scene again, get into culture. I was just here to get like whatever job and make money and forget about everything. And uh, another reason was like I had I had like a girlfriend in here too, but she's based in Chicago. So that's one more reason why I moved here. Like I was getting burnt out over there and I may have something over here, but then that relationship didn't work out. And uh, I don't know if Matt told you, but we also got into, so a friend and I also got into the Ellen DeGeneres show for this fake McDonald's poster that we made. So and that was like a year after I moved here. So stuff was like moving really fast. And but yeah, I moved here. First job I got was in a Filipino run TV show. It's called Pinoy Houston TV. And it was Hurricane Harvey season. And I was scrolling the internet, and in one of these Filipino Facebook groups, I saw this ad for the TV show, and I was like, "Wow, this looks really bad. I think they need help." So I applied, and they got in contact with me like within a week, and I got into an interview, and turns out no one with media, only like two people with media experience was actually working there, and they were like an editor and like a producer. and one of them isn't even Filipino. So this TV station or TV show, it was shooting in a Chinese TV station. It was in Southern News Group in Bel Air. So I mean, it's no disrespect, but like a lot of people in there were working as nurses, as like real estate agents, as teachers, and as like interpreters, stuff like that. But we actually needed people who knew what they're doing, like media wise. So we worked there for like more than a little less than a year, and no one was getting paid because payment, yeah, like how TV runs is like TV makes money with commercials and endorsements and stuff like that, but like no one was getting commercials, no one was getting endorsements, no one was getting marketing stuff done because there's very little of us and like a lot of stuff to do. And like I feel like since the owners weren't from the media or don't have media experience, they don't understand that. And that's why we all quit. But then before our last days over there, me and my friend Jev Maravilla, which is Jenna's brother. I think you've already interviewed Jenna. Uh, we always hung out at this McDonald's here in Pearland, and we were always looking around, and it was almost like Crazy Rich Asians was almost about to come out, and we were talking about it and Asian representation in media and advertising. And we looked around the store, and there were posters of like white people, black people, uh, Latino people, but there were no Asians. So we decided to put one up there ourselves, and we shot in a park nearby, and we edited it like it was uh, like the exact same aesthetics as the other posters, and we printed it like 4 feet by 6 feet, so it's like a big poster, and we snuck it in there. We made sure that the location we chose, there were no like video cameras pointing to it, and uh, we planned what time of day we were gonna be there. We planned our outfits. Like he actually wore a McDonald's uniform we found like in a Goodwill, and and we just posted it up there, like acted like it was nothing, and then we went out. And then that was Memorial Day weekend, before Memorial Day weekend. And the week after, or 2 weeks after that, I think Jev tweeted about it, and it was getting viral. And like we never expected anything like that to happen, because the most we like hoped for was like it was gonna be like an urban legend, and that like there's gonna be rumors that that poster wasn't gonna be there, but it is. Like no one knows why, and like we would actually still like shop or buy stuff at that McDonald's. We would be in line, and and people will look at us funny and look at the poster and look at us again. They're probably like, do they look like the people are on the poster, or are we just racist? And so like even the employees didn't know, because like a lot of McDonald's employees are like teenagers who are just there to make money and stuff. So they probably didn't care. And like even on the tweets, people are like, "What? I work here. I didn't even notice that." And so yeah, Memorial Day weekend came. It got viral. Uh, sorry. Uh, it got viral, and Ellen's people like messaged us and wanted to like talk to us about the poster. And then week after that, or days after that, it's like the McDonald's people who wanted to reach out to us. And turns out like Ellen people and McDonald's people spoke to each other, to have us go to their show, to Ellen's show. So it's like September 17. I was just looking at the book because the check is here and my room's messy. So it was like September 17. Uh, when we were there, or at least the show aired at September 17. And yeah, they gave us like $25,000 for it because Ellen likes pranks. So it was mostly the talk was mostly about like uh, the prank rather than the actual like Asian representation. It was mentioned, but it's not like the key conversation over there. So yeah, and 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 I kept asking like McDonald's people like, weren't anyone mad at us for like doing this and stuff? And they were like, no, because it's like super hard for brands to go viral, and so they appreciate it. And uh, yeah, so after that, they asked us to go to Florida to like be part of like a talk about diversity in advertising, and they also invited like other Asian McDonald franchise owners, and that happened like maybe twice. They flew us somewhere to talk, and we also got to be like in a McDonald's commercial. This was like 2 seconds of us. We just made a high five. It was just like an Easter egg. Like if you didn't know us, you wouldn't know it was us in there. And yeah, and like a lot of we were interviewed as well, like in a TV show in Australia, but we didn't fly to Australia. It was like a studio here in Houston, which was live in Australia. And what's funny about it is like we were on the same show, and then Michael Bublé was also there. So it's funny, like we almost met Michael Bublé, but not really. And also a lot of TV of news journalists here in Houston also interviewed us. We got into like a late night show here in Houston, a local one. Uh, we almost got into Steve Harvey, but that didn't go through. and and yeah, that's pretty much it. And after, I mean, actually, that like I got some opportunities, or almost got some opportunities. Like someone from NASA messaged me and got me an interview to be like an editor for NASA, and it was like editing space station footage that no one has seen before, and like because it's like a Big Brother house. There's like a lot of stuff that's a lot of boring stuff happens, and then a lot of like not a lot of like action stuff happens. So it's like editing out the boring stuff and just handing them out the usable stuff. So I almost got that, but no, they got another person, and I also got an interview here in the Houston Mayor's Office for Cultural Affairs. So I got an interview for that as well, but they chose another person. So it's weird. So yeah, so part of me thinks that like, do they just want to hear the Ellen story, or they just actually looking for a person to hire? But another good thing that came from that is I became part of this Filipino American nonprofit group. It's called Unipro Texas, where we educate college students, and we also do programs for young professionals and older folks, and try to bridge generations, because generation gap here with Asian people, with the Filipino American people, is real. Like a lot of like first generation Filipinos like hate second generation Filipinos, and like they just don't understand each other. So we're trying to bridge that, and also like this year we're trying to bridge other cultures as well, like different races, like just having even solidarity with Black people, with Black Lives Matter. Try to do something with that, and like other issues as well. So it's like a very good group to be with, which I'm with Jenna as well and other people. And now I'm also part of the Philippinex Artist Collective, with founded by Matt Manalo. And now we're actually like doing a lot of education and work with other people.
That's so cool. And just going back a little bit to talk about the prank you did, whose idea was it and how did you come up with it?
So basically, he was joking that like Jeb was joking that we should put a poster in there, and I was just like, yeah, let's do it because I'm an enabler. And then we did it, and yeah, so that's basically how it got like the idea got into us.
Did you use the proceeding to like invest in like your movies or screenwrites and or like how did you use funds to the you said the campaign funds like how did you like make some good movies with that fund?
Well, I paid my bills. I paid my bills, and my car was broken, and like it was basically like a cash car. I got it like for like $1,000. It was like the brakes were broken and stuff like that, so I had to change my car. So I got a car, and I didn't use all the money for a car. I got it for like camera equipment to like start my like own photography business and videography business. And so yeah, I got like a camera, some lenses, some stuff. We went to vacation in the Philippines, and some of it is still in the bank. Cause like after that, like I quit my job because I used to work in retail before that happened. And yeah, I quit that job, tried to pursue my photography and videography, and the money I used for like as buffer for when I don't have gigs, for when if I need something professionally, if I need to rent stuff, so stuff like that.
That's cool. And I'm just wondering, when did you start to pay attention on this issue of like cultural diversity, racial diversity? Did you start any kind of similar initiative since like arriving into the US or back in college since there's a lot of American representation in Philippines as well?
Uh, Actually, like it is very like common. Like in the Philippines, it's still like colonization is still kind of felt in there, like in the in and stuff. With like if you're light skinned, you're considered prettier or more beautiful than darker skinned Filipinos. So it's basically like I already learned a lot of stuff over there, but here being here is different because there's no actual like other races in there. I mean, there are like Chinese people and other people, but it's not like a racism against other people, other races. It's actually like racism against darker skinned, but also Filipinos. And it's not like too uh extreme as in here. Like there's no like a lot there's not a lot of crimes being done in the Philippines just because uh of the color of your skin. It's just like you get more privilege because you're whiter or stuff like that. And then here, no, I came here, I didn't know like 2017. I still didn't know what Black Lives Matter was and stuff like that. So yeah, it's still a bit like a lot of learning for me. And when I got to Unipro, uh, they actually helped me learn a lot of this stuff. And also, like I help a lot with like activist groups here in the U.S. with NAFCON, which is like the National Alliance for Filipino Americans, and Malaya, which translated to English as freedom. So Malaya is an organization here as well that uh, helps the Philippines in the Filipino American way, like with the Duterte. So yeah, I also worked with Malaya, which translates as freedom. So they're trying to campaign to stop the U.S. from sending money for weapons in the Philippines for Duterte's drug war and like stuff like that. So yeah, just trying to work with a lot of Filipino organizations in here as well. Because we also, as Unipro, we also work with the Filipino American Chamber for Commerce, and there's a lot of politics in the Chamber of Commerce because there's two Filipino American Chamber of Commerce, and it's a lot of politics between them and the Philippine consulate as well. So like for a time, like I was kind of, we were kind of in the middle of it when I worked for the TV station. So like that's another reason why we quit.
That's cool. And I also saw that you're one of the editors at the Chit Chat Houston.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another fun aspect you can fully talk to us about.
So what happened was a lot of people from Chit Chat also worked with Pinoy Houston TV before, and they also got tired of how they treat people. So they all quit. And Cheryl now works with Balita America, which is like one of the biggest news, Filipino American news shows here in the US. And and Ron is now Ron, the director before me, now directs Chit Chat, and Melvin Adriatico. Uh, he has like a business with like real estate and stuff like that, and he's one of the producers. And Sherin Reyes, she was also a main singer in the Philippines. Like she won like the nationals over there. And it says my connection unstable again, so we'll see how it goes. And we also have Vincent Evangelista, who's like a very good singer in the Philippines as well, and who also moved here. And Ro Aragon, she is a news reporter for KPRC, so you also might want to interview her. And yeah, she's a very good friend as well, and she's also part of Unipro Texas. So if you need info, let us know. So yeah, I now edit for Chit Chat Houston for like one season. I've edited for one season, and Chit Chat Houston has won like a Telly Award. So it's basically, I think, I'm not sure about the scope of it, but it's won like awards for like a variety show, stuff like that. And my role basically, you know how when you watch like news, there's like a moving text down here, stuff like that for like who to call, what headline we're supposed to put in there, what time is it, stuff like that. So that's my role. It's basically just like a roundtable discussion sometimes. So it's basically like I try to not just put facts and or like not just put like shallow stuff under there. Like if they're talking about like bullying, what number should people call when they're being like with like mental health stuff? What number should they call with stuff like that? And like what other sources can people get? Because sometimes like uh, people can get lost in the conversation, and like I feel like it's my goal to like get this whatever is the most important stuff and like just put it in there, because a lot of people just watch TV on the background and not listen to it, and they just see the stuff, or it's the other way around, they don't see the stuff and they just listen to it. So I feel like that was my role in there. But unfortunately, we're not shooting this season because of COVID-19. So I'm not sure if we're doing like an online thing. But yeah, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to tell people that. But yeah, I think I can because like they posted it on the website. But yeah, Chit Chat Houston.
Cool. We hope we can see something coming up soon. And how about the Cinema Arts Society? And
Oh yeah,
yeah, can you share something?
that was like a brief uh, thing that I did. Uh, this was still before COVID, when everything was normal. And Sybil, my friend from Philippine Artist Collective, used to work for Cinema Art Society, and they were looking for volunteers. So I volunteered in there because, like, I technically had my time on my hands because I was doing freelance work. And I basically became like a volunteer, like office assistant, and because basically for the Cinema Art Society, they only have like two full-time employees, and they don't actually work the Cinema Arts Festival. So for the Cinema Arts Festival, they outsource this events producers. Her name is Shernavia Sessom. She's African American, and I worked a lot with her. And I feel like they were happy with my work, and like they said if they needed anything like to actually hire people next year, they would contact me. So we'll see how COVID-19 goes and if we're still gonna have it or not. Yeah, but right now I also try to work with. I've been attending stuff with the Houston Media Source. Try to get in contact with people, attend their workshops, and my friends and I also formed this small film group. It's called Joy Luck Film Club. It's not like something big yet. It's just like five of us, and now Matt's in it too, and like some of my friends in the Philippines and right now as well. We're doing like a weekly short screenplay workshop series where we just try to write every week and like see where we get to.
That's cool. Can you share with us some of the current works that you're doing? Short
Uh,
of anything.
this because we I also host this book club where let me get the book. Where's that book? So basically, it's a book club about we have this book. It's called 101 Amazing Creatures. I'm like loosely translating it. So it's like Filipino mythology, Filipino folklore. What creatures do we have in the Philippines? What monsters do we have in there? What gods, goddesses, like semi-gods do we have? And so we started that book club, and then uh, my goal was to write stories about the monsters and or creatures or gods. And then what I've been writing right now is like a mix of what if this modern day, like what if these gods still exist? We still believe in these gods, and like basically, let me get the book. Give me one sec. And and it's in Filipino. So I basically started the book club just to translate everything for people and and try to juxtapose stories like okay cool. Mm,
So is it like a science fiction?
no, it's like actual folklore. And so what I wanted to do was, or what I'm doing is, if like I get one character like this lady over here, Alonsina. So basically, she was like in a relationship with the creator, one of the creators of the universe, and like he was so busy that she left him, and now when it rains, they feel like it's believed that it's the guy's tears, it's his like excess tears because he's crying because like she left him, and that the stars are like her gems, and 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 yeah. So basically I try to juxtapose that with like modern day stories, that what if Alonsina was like a mom, and like this her ex, which is Tungkong Langit, the name was Tungkong Langit, is like a, or what if he is like a filmmaker who makes worlds and stuff like that, and try to juxtapose stories that like what if they were human, like how would they feel and what would they do, stuff like that.
Did you feel that any of your upbringing influenced any of your writing? Like, do you try to portray yourself in certain ways in your writing?
Like I always say no, but then my friends when they read my work, like they're like, this is you. And I feel like a lot of my writing is just one part of me trying to talk to another part of me, trying to like negate one another, having conversations with one another, trying to be like my own devil's advocate, or maybe like a what if story, like what if this happened. Uh, it's basically, if you've heard of the Before trilogy with Richard Linklater. So it's basically something like that, because like in the Before trilogy, it's based on like an actual person that the director met, and after the first movie, like they actually never saw each other again, and like turns out the lady died. The lady where the first movie was based from, she died, and like he didn't know until it was late. And it's basically just that kind of premise, like with my writing, with like a what if this happened, or what if and it's basically a lot of irony, I would say, and playing a lot with like what's happening in society. Because before I moved here, like my passion project was, it's like this short film about extrajudicial killings and pop culture, and it's like a political satire, that what if this really popular action star got caught in like an issue with like extrajudicial killing. Like, would his fans be like still be fans of him? Would they support him? Would they hate him? Like, what would you feel if like there's like this very influential person that you looked up to turns out like he's not that, or like the media tries to frame him as something else, something like that.
That's really interesting. How about like, are you spiritual in any way, or do you have any belief that
I mean, besides my name, which is Christian, I mean, it's super hard to like to live up to my name. But I grew up Roman Catholic in the Philippines, and I always went to church with my family. And moving here, I still go to church alone before COVID, but then I also like uh, got into this Christian church, non-denominational Christian church, which is like New Hope Church, like near me. So I sometimes I end up going like to a Catholic church in the morning, and then after that drive to like the Christian church, because because I really also enjoy the worship music. And on Thursdays, Jenna actually invited me to like a Bible study. I was the first time I attended it, I was just supposed to give her a ride and stay. And then I kept going. So like it's every Thursday we have like a Bible study. But like it's not like there's still some reservations with like religion and stuff like that, because there's still some like questionable beliefs, and like there's still some stuff that's not like clear, and I'm still on my own journey to like spirituality and stuff. And I've been getting into like philosophy a lot just because of this one podcast, and like it really makes me question things, because like all this reason why like Jesus exists and stuff like that, they could just change the name to another person and still keep everything, and it would still be like totally valid, which is, yeah, I'm still trying to get through it. But yeah, and also like I have a lot of friends who believe in like astrology and stuff like that. I'm not like an expert on it. I just download the apps they ask me to download. I just have CoStar, I just have Pattern, and just see it every day. But I don't really like follow it, and I'm not really an expert on it, because a lot of like my other friends, they also believe in like numerology, and they also believe in like a lot of different stuff, which is like crazy. And I feel like, I mean, it's interesting. I just don't have like the bandwidth to like study all of those again.
Cool. So, what are the inspirations for you that you draw from? Like, is it from your own life experiences, or like from reading, from writing, to yeah, from your own, yeah, writing, creative works and others?
For me, it's basically as rather than my own life experience, it's what I want to experience. I would say, like with the what if thing. It's like it wouldn't be a what if it actually happened to me, and if it was actually like fun, and like basically because I feel like I had a very like sheltered upbringing, so all the stuff I didn't experience, that's what I feel like I want to write about. But the struggle is that like how do I write about it when I didn't experience it, right? So it's like chicken and the egg thing, like what comes first, which I feel like what I do is like just take my experience and then like exaggerate it. Like with this one, I had a short run in theater back in the Philippines before, where I wrote something about this birdman and this mermaid and this monkey man. It sounds like a children's thing, which it totally is. But the premise is that like this birdman and this like mermaid fall in love with each other. But then again, like the main trigger for me is this quote that says like a bird could fall in love with a fish, but where would they live? So basically, I just made it about like social stratification, like maybe if it's like a rich person and like a person not as well off trying to be together, but the society doesn't want them to, or maybe like two people of the same sex trying to be together, and then the society don't want them to, or like maybe different races, I don't know. So it's like a lot of variations like that. And basically it was like choose your own story type of play. It's like very experimental, so what the audience decide what happens. So the debate and the so it becomes like a Jerry Springer show with the monkey man as like the host, because like he's in the land, so it's like the middle ground. So the monkey is like Jerry Springer, and these two people are trying to get together, but society don't want them to, like the audience don't want them to. So they make their cases, and it's like animals talking about humanity, which is like, like humanity talks about animals like it's like a bad thing. Like if someone calls you a snake, it's a bad thing. If someone calls you like a pig, it's a bad thing. But actually, like we're the ones destroying nature. We're the people are the ones like taking more than we deserve, taking more than we need, and like it's an actual insult now if you're called a human. If you're an animal and you're called a human, you're actually like the bad person here. So it's basically like a group of animals talking about if these two people, if these the mermaid man and like mermaid and birdman, if they're gonna be together, they should be humans because that's the only reason they could live in the land and whatever. And the audience were also wearing masks with like their favorite animals. We have them like draw them down and like mask and like wear them the whole show, so like they feel like they're actually part of it. And yeah, they end up voting if they should just kill both characters or like have them live together as humans and never understand animals anymore. And like we had two shows, and both shows like people voted that they should be humans and they should be together, but they should also get the best characteristics from animals as they can. Like if a dog cares for her child like this, if like this animal's very fast, like all the good characteristics the animals have. So I'm also butchering my explanation, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, so I feel like my my works are about like uh, I don't want to like claim that it's about humanity because like I'm like not an expert or not an expert on it, and there's also this uh, now that I'm talking to you, I'm just realizing that it's a lot about like fictional animals and stuff because there's this other screenplay that I've just been submitting to stuff. Uh, if you've heard of Metamorphosis of by Franz Kafka, so basically this guy wakes up as a cockroach, and like what would happen if that happened like in 2020, right? Like what would like your family tell you? What would the media tell you? And like you could basically go on a Zoom meeting as a cockroach and people would think that you're just on a filter and that there's nothing wrong with you and you just change whatever. You could just pretend that nothing's happening. So basically like that. Like it's still the same premise that people are still like thinking about like capitalism, thinking about money, where in fact like you're a cockroach, you should be worrying about what's happening to you right now. So yeah, stuff like that. Basically, yeah, I guess it's from other works of art as well. I'm not like an avid reader, or even like I studied film, but I know a lot of people who watch way more movies than me. But yeah, I just try to get them like from what fascinates me, like other creatures and the irony, just the irony of life itself. Because like this, it's super easy to get irony right now. Like if you just watch like a late night talk show host like doing jokes about the government, they're not even doing jokes, they're just stating what the government is doing, and it's just really ridiculous what's happening.
Yeah, talking about like comedy shows and like and you were talking about Crazy Rich Asians, and we're seeing a lot of the more and more Asian population and seeing our race being represented in mainstream medium. What is your view on this change in the society?
It's still like uh, a lot of it's still very difficult to like navigate all of it because now it just seems like there's just token agents just so agents wouldn't say anything, or now it's just like uh Asian men trying to be sexy and because there's still like this model minority myth that's still happening, and there are more Asians, but it's still like a lot of Asian stereotypes, which we're not actually heading the right direction. But it's still in there. I mean, I could see how a lot of people are still proud to see their people in there. But like a lot of shows that I watch, I just recently find out like, oh yeah, I'm also laughing at this Asian guy. Like I love watching Good Place, and they're laughing at this Filipino guy in there who's like stupid. So it's either like we're super smart or we're super stupid. Like we can't be like on the middle or whatever. But then again, like I haven't watched everything in there, and I'm still hopeful. Like with a lot of like Asian filmmakers out there, like Parasite. Can you believe it's just 2020 that Parasite won? It feels like years ago, and like I like it because like compared to like Crazy Rich Asians and compared to like uh Always Be My Maybe, because Crazy Rich Asians I feel like it's a good start, but it's like still like this is just the rich Asians, which is like 1% of us. And like who are these people? And then I feel like Always Be My Maybe still like okay, it's more balanced and it doesn't directly talk about like the Asian struggles, which is like a good thing for like a good starter for non-Asians, I guess, because it's not like all in your face Asian stuff that you wouldn't understand. So I feel like it's a good direction, and then Parasite comes and it's like all Asian, and and it's amazing, and I don't see why people don't like it. Even here in like people don't want to read subtitles. But also I want to note is like Train to Busan, which is like not everyone takes horror films or like thriller zombie films seriously. But if it's like Train to Busan could happen anywhere in the world, and you would still see these same characters who are in there. There's like this always this jerk, always this kid, always this grandma, always this tough guy. So it's basically like an actual critique of society from anywhere. It doesn't need to be like in Korea, it doesn't need to be in Asia. So yeah, that's so far is my kind of favorite. It's Parasite and like Train to Busan.
Yeah, we're looking forward to more, and hopefully you can bring something for us too.
I, well, because we also have a lot of Filipinos winning in France in Cannes, but the deal is like these are art films, and these are like a lot. Some of these are like 8-hour films or like 12-hour films, and like this is not accessible to the public. Like like main movie distributors wouldn't distribute this, and like people, especially in the Philippines, they still make films like very shallow films, and I only get to watch a lot of good independent films because I actually work where they are shown. So like country per country, I think there's still a long way to go. But like in the U.S., like it's getting there, and it's not stopping. That's what's good. It's not stopping. So, and I also like one question I always ask people is like, how do we know when we already have enough Asian representation? And like how do we stop, like when do we stop, when do we need to stop, or stuff like that, which I also still don't know. That I don't think anyone still knows the answer because everything changes, and then like covid comes, and like people think it's all our fault being Asians and stuff. Yeah, but I think like personally a lot of people think I'm Hispanic so I don't get a lot of the Asian racism. Like I would have coworkers who would speak to me in Spanish, and thankfully I know a little bit of Spanish because I took like three subjects of Spanish in college. I failed like the last one, but they still understand me. So yeah, that's very useful here in Texas.
So you also have another hat. You worked as a curator as well, right? And that's the more recent show in January called the sorry, excuse my pronunciation. Lumika, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, Lumika. So Lumika means to create in Filipino.
Mhm.
So it started like 2 years ago, uh, or last year. It started like last. When did it start? Like last. So 2020 started 2019 was the first one. We had like 10 artists. Cool. It's basically the first one was basically introducing to Houston that we actually have Filipino artists in here. Because Filipino artists, uh, if you're an artist and you're Filipino, like the community doesn't support you. Like the community still don't understand the power of culture, the value of culture, the value of artists, and we're basically trying to get that in there, trying to get that out there. I wasn't part of the first one, but since I have experience in the arts, they got me to curate the second one, which is like now we have like 30 more artists, and like 300 people were there, and or I think 350 people were there, and this the second one that I curated was basically actually addressing issues. So here's the poster for that. These ones. So we can send you some for your archives if you want to. Like I have like 20 more that I don't know what to do. So it's basically addressing issues like in the Filipino American society, like colorism, uh, gender constructs, intergenerational gaps. What else do we have in here? Uh, Traditions. Like, do we have like toxic traditions that we need to forget, and like social movements as well. So yeah, I created that, and like Ria, another person, was basically the overall director, and I coordinated with like 30 plus Filipino artists, Filipinx artists here in Houston, including Matt, which this is Matt's work over over here, and basically trying to show the artists that there is community, and like even if the like the mainstream Filipino community doesn't acknowledge them, like we could acknowledge each other and actually help each other, because there's a lot of like artists who are full time, who actually went to school for art, who have been doing these for years, like Matt. And there's like new artists who didn't go to school, who started it as a hobby, and it's basically helping each other out with what we need, and yeah, stuff like that. So that's also how one, I guess, one factor of how the Filipinx Artists of Houston uh, got conceived. And what else about it? So that show, I think it got featured in the Houston Media Source, and it was also in the newspaper, at least for the like Filipino Texas newspaper. Uh, it was also in KPRC because of Ro. And yeah, and this year I'm also planning for the upcoming Lumika, which I'm inviting you to be there. And we're still not sure how it's gonna be. I mean, it's still in January, but like Texas is not getting better. So if it has to be an online thing, then it's gonna be an online thing. If we don't make money out of it, then we don't make money out of it. Because like I mean, I don't personally make money out of it. Like like all the proceeds, uh, ticket sales went to Unipro for our programs. But then when the artists actually sell their artworks, if someone buys their artworks, 100% goes to the artist. So we're basically giving them like a venue and an audience, and an opportunity to like introduce themselves to the Filipino community, and like get more collectors, get more people interested in their work and in their art. What I am trying to do this year is make an educational component to it, because with my background in arts education, because what's interesting and personally frustrating in the Filipino community here in the US, not just in Texas, is that there's like these experts, quote unquote experts in Filipino culture. I don't know who named them experts, but it's like these people who like practice Filipino culture and make money off of it, where some stuff you could actually learn yourself and do it yourself. Like I could teach you how to write in the Filipino script, and you could do it, and you don't need me to write your own name in your own language and pay me for it, you know? So yeah, basically education, and also like just trying to get to have more artists in there, to have more Filipino culture, because there's a lot of parents, Filipino American parents in here, who want to teach themselves their like kids Filipino culture, but they don't know where to start. And there's still no clear path to how we're gonna do it. But like we have a lot of allies as well, which we have like Filipino young professionals who have like a very good dance group, and they teach a lot of people like tinikling and stuff, and like a lot of FSAs as well, Filipino Student Associations. We work a lot with them as well to target like college students who want to learn about Filipino culture. And yeah, so as much as I like art, uh, I also want a lot of people to actually understand what it means, rather than just hanging something on a wall. which is great. It's beautiful, but like if anything, then why do you put it in there? You know.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. That's very inspiring as well to be an educator and influencer as well as an artist. Um,
I don't know about influencer, but
as a cultural promoter.
I would take that more, yeah, because like a lot of people here, they use the word like cultural practitioners.
Mhm.
I mean, we're all like cultural practitioners in our own selves. We practice our own culture every day, so like it doesn't make sense to me to like make something exclusive when it's actually for everyone. You know, like a lot of gatekeeping is happening in the academe, a lot of gatekeeping where like you just have to read a book and you know this. You don't have to like go 4 years of school to know this. You just have to read and like share what you know and like ask people what they know and then share what you know with each other and then we both know it. It's not that complicated.
And the following uh, part will be about the COVID-19. I guess we talked about it, but so here we are probably gonna talk about how it specifically impacts your life after it happened. So what has changed for you? Can you share with us?
I was gonna have like some like gigs as for photography and videography for events and stuff, which like got canceled because of it. Like I'm supposed to be in Austin this Saturday and Sunday to shoot something, but then someone got COVID, and now we're not gonna be in Austin. We're still gonna do it in Houston without the person that has COVID. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I mean, it's not a good thing, but there's a lot of people have bigger problems out there. A lot of people actually have COVID, which is crazy. And being a photographer, it's actually like a social distance job because I don't have to be in like people's faces to take their photos. I could be like 15 feet away from them and still take their photos. And a lot of editing happens from home. Even when I was in Chit Chat, I just edit from home and I don't actually have a choice to work anywhere else. And so I just concentrate on like doing stuff for Unipro, doing stuff for the Philippine Artist Collective, doing stuff for NAFCON, doing stuff for Malaya, and work on myself, try not to get fat, stuff like that. And what else? Yeah, and it's also very hard for like because my parents are like super old, not super old. Scratch that from the record. No, my dad is like almost 70 and my mom is like almost 70 as well. So I'm worried about them. And my sister is gonna have a baby on my sister that I live with right now. She's gonna have a baby with my brother-in-law. They're gonna have a baby this September. So we try to be careful about who we're around with, especially because my brother-in-law's a nurse. So sometimes they have COVID-19 patients and it's like he has to like change his clothes and take a bath immediately when he gets home the morning. And we're also thinking of like flying in our parents in September if it permits them. Because even in the Philippines, it's not doing like really good over there. It's like Texas. And so they still need to like get clearances, get checkups, get like tested before they fly in here. And like a lot of their flights that actually go to some places that have COVID-19. So we're just trying to get them to have like a direct flight, but there's no direct flight from the Philippines to Houston. So they have to pass by LA, which I don't think is like doing really good as well right now. I'm not sure. So yeah, it's a lot of we also have like some friends here in Houston with the Philippine X Artist Collective who got infected. So we just try to organize something for them, like a gift basket, something like that. Like one of them is a mom, and and like both the mom and the dad got COVID, and now like they have 3 kids. So we got them like a lot of microwavable stuff for the kids, so they don't have to cook anymore, stuff like that. And another friend too, which is like, it's not like a financial aid. It's more of like just making them feel comfortable, not to worry about stuff like a gift basket. And also like because of COVID, there are like J1 visa holders here in in Houston who who like lost their jobs in the hotels because the hotels closed. So we tried to raise money for them as well with Filipinx Artists Collective. We tried to raise money for them for their bills. And now one of them is back to work, and like the other 8 is now in Florida, transferred to Florida to work as well. There's still some J1 visa holders in Dallas that are still not working. So like some folks are also trying to help the ones over there.
Yeah, it definitely impacted every one of us, and thank you for your contribution in helping out.
Yeah.
I just want, yeah, go ahead.
Now definitely like I personally got anxiety from it. Like when I would read like symptoms on the internet, like I would directly feel it. Like when I read shortness of breath, like I can't breathe suddenly. Stuff like that. Like when I read like your body's gonna ache, and like I feel it immediately, even though I just like worked out yesterday, so my body's supposed to hurt. Stuff like that. I overthink it. I'm an overthinker for like that way.
So you said you live with your sister's family, and
Yeah.
that has that helped with the depression and I mean the anxiety?
Uh, Yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, I can't imagine just. I'm still always alone in my room, but like knowing someone is downstairs is also good. And like I started gardening as well, and like I have like I'm a plant dad now. I have plant babies, so it helps me keep busy. It gets my mind off just thinking about myself and like actually thinking about other stuff too.
And how has the quarantine changed the relationship between you and your family, your sister's family in this case?
I actually talk to my parents more because like we're not doing anything, so they could just call me and call me whenever, and I have no reason not to answer. But it's more of really like getting to know how they also react to these stuff. Like turns out my mom also gets the same anxiety, and we know where we got it from, and my other sister also has the same anxiety, and now we all know like we got it from our mom. And yeah, and what else? Also, like, yeah, checking up on them more. Because since my sister's a doctor, she tries to like check up on them, like medically, like make sure they always take their blood pressure check every day. And because my role, I feel like I know I said I had conflicts with my family before, but like I just like let it go. And now I feel like my role is just try to get everyone together, and if they're feeling anxiety, I would just make jokes and stuff so they won't think about it. And yeah, try to try to like keep the peace.
Yeah, trying to keep us all sane as well, I guess, in this stressful time.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm also just wondering, since everything has been moved to online now, has your kind of working model, like if you're not filming, do you kind of spend the time like having meetings with other people online, or have you have you thought about like doing filming through online ways?
Not yet, because I mean it's come to my mind, but for now it's just like the writing stuff that we're doing online, and a lot of educational stuff as well. I also attend a lot of like Zoom workshops with writing, with Jenna, with like a lot of other people from LA too. With just try to get in all that free free educational stuff. download some ebooks, watch movies that I've been like wanting to watch for a while now. And like just I know a lot of people are being more productive than me. That's what I would say. But like I try.
Ooh. And how do you think about this pandemic has revealed about our society? For example, the social structure, seeing the poverty and the people of color being more impacted. Like you also mentioned, the discrimination being one of them, but also places where there are the poorer family getting more impacted by COVID.
It's crazy. It's crazy how people like deny that this is like systemic, that like treatment of this pandemic is like not racist. It's crazy how like people think that we're still treated equally. We're like even like with Zoom classes, there are people out there who don't have internet at home, who don't even have internet in school. They have to go somewhere else. They have to go to like a restaurant, park outside a library, just to do homework, just to get to a meeting, just to send an email, whatever. And like a lot of people don't realize that, and it's crazy. And also like people would rally just because they don't want to wear a mask, and then like they're complaining when other people are rallying because of racism. Like it's crazy how extremes people are, and like uh even like with how there's a lot more supplies in like Asian markets rather than like in Walmart or HEB, because like no one is going there anymore. And now they're discovering that okay, maybe it's okay to go here and stuff like that. And even with the Asian community, like with the recent this one Vietnamese business owner who paid for like a Black Lives Matter billboard, and like a lot of other Vietnamese conservatives were like rallying against it. It's crazy how also even in our community it's like very divided. And even in like the Filipino community, I feel like they wouldn't be that extreme, like would go to a rally just to oppose Black Lives Matter. But there's definitely a lot of like conservatives here, and there's definitely a lot of racists in the community as well. And we're still trying to get through it, and we're still like one time Jenna and Matt and Royal and the other folks and I were talking about like how do we actually like open people's mind to this, because like a lot of them have like very emotional stuff going on, and like facts don't go too far if it's like you actually trying to argue with an emotional person who has like a personal reason to it. And yeah, it's still a lot. And but it's voting season, so trying to vote, see where that gets me, gets us. And like also like I also signed up part of the census team, which I guess is delayed because COVID-19 again. So yeah, that's one more effect of the COVID-19, I guess. I'm not sure if I answered your question. But yeah, so we're also trying to aim Lumika to address issues about this, about COVID-19, about racism, about Black Lives Matter, about solidarity. But it's still in January. We're also thinking of stuff to do right now, and it's still uh, a lot of stuff is going out there, but there's also a lot of like not so good stuff. Like a lot of there are also Filipinos who try to make money out of like Black Lives Matter, and like they would sell merch for themselves, and like no money or like little money goes to Black Lives Matter. So they actually make money from this revolution, and they actually make money from uh, like making money out of social issues, making it political and like rather than like a human rights issue, you know.
Sorry, can you share more about that? How do what were the exact things they were doing?
So there's this one artist. I'm not sure if I should mention the name, but there's this one artist. He's based in. I'm not sure where he's based, but he sells this uh, merch that says Philippines for Black Lives, and 30% they said goes to Black Lives Matter, but the 70% they don't specify where it goes. But then they also say that they're not making money out of this, and uh, so yeah, so there's like no transparency with this. So it's basically them making money out of Black Lives Matter, and they're not even black. Like we could be donating stuff for Black Lives Matter. I know in Texas with the Filipinx Artist Collective folks, we actually sold a lot of artworks and donated 100% to like where we need to donate it. Also, Dallas folks also did that, but then there's these artists who are like actually making money out of it and actually uh, sending out merch and explaining the artwork where it was revealed to be a template from Canva. So this person is actually like taking credit for a Canva design and explaining like the deep meaning of this star and this hand when it's actually just from Canva. So you're learning a lot of like T from Filipino Twitter right now.
I'm sure from like in every yeah, there's different sides of a story and different sides of views. Yeah.
Because even here in Houston, like you know how there's a lot of murals here, and like there's a mural of George Floyd, there's a mural of Vanessa. There are artists. These are non-Filipino artists now. There are artists who are like making murals of people uh, who are part of the social issue just for clout. Like they're not even like invited to make the mural. Like all ethics is being questioned right now. Like what are we doing and why are we doing it, and if is this right? Like are we supposed to be doing it? And I know I have my own like questionable ethics with the McDonald's poster and stuff, but it's like no one actually got hurt with that. Like we're not erasing another person's face and putting our own face on it. Whereas these like people actually died, and like you're making something out of it for just for clout. Whereas with other social issues, like they're silent and do not have any other opinions.
Yeah, it's incredible this year through the pandemic how much of this layers of either it's racial or the ethics has revealed.
Yeah,
Um, and I was just wondering, we touched on it briefly that you were saying you weren't particularly impacted during the wave of Asian American discrimination and attacks and the xenophobic behaviors. Like in during your time in the U.S. or I guess back in the Philippines, have you been like kind of attacked in any way or experienced any unfair treatment in any way due to the color of yeah, the skin?
I mean I'm like in the middle. I'm like medium roast rather than light roast or dark roast. So it's like I mean my mom always buys me whitening soap and stuff like that. Like when I was younger, my face got burnt because like the soap actually peels your skin and you can't go in direct sunlight if you use that soap. And it's crazy how people want to be white over there. And yeah, so that's so even in my own family, that's basically it. Because I'm like the darkest one in our family. My sisters look like East Asians, and my mom also looks like she's Chinese. And yeah, so like I don't know, like even if I use that soap, like my skin doesn't get lighter. So it's like I think I'm not sure if she stopped. My mom gave up trying, or like when she goes here in September, she's still gonna have soap for me. But yeah,
It's the first time I heard something like that exists.
it's very normal now. It's like it's like we're desensitized in the Philippines. It's not even like there's still conversation about it, but only in like the woke circles that people are actually talking about it. Like if you go on the streets, like no one's talking about like being proud to be brown. No one's talking about like it's just ingrained in our like minds that if you're whiter, you look better because like it's all everywhere. It's on mass media. It's on like billboards. It's on commercials. It's on like TV shows, and like the whole mass media over there on TV. People would be have white skin and long hair because that's where they get money from like soap commercials from shampoo commercials. I mean, that's why it's called soap operas because it's like soap endorsements and like that's where the show gets money from, you know.
Wow, that's interesting. And I'm just wondering, how has like your vision or your perspectives of the future changed during the pandemic? Like I know a lot of people have been reflecting and worrying and thinking. Like what are your thoughts?
I'm just it's like I'm this is another parasite reference, but it's like also like best plan is no plan right now. And it's also but it also makes you like put into perspective what you really need to do and who you really want to hang out to and with, and like what are your priorities. And because like before, like I would always be out and like try to like dress up and impress people, and like that's not important anymore right now. Like I'll like even in this meeting, like no offense, like I was thinking, should I dress up for this meeting? Because I know it's gonna be recorded. But I just try not to look like ratchet and stuff. But it's like you also see like because you also see like who is actually trying to do something out there, who's like genuinely trying to help and genuinely like sacrificing their own time. Because even here in the U.S. Or in Texas, with the J1 workers we were mentioning before, they were asking for help with the Philippine consulate for the yeah from the Philippine consulate, and they didn't get anything. So it's now up to like civilians to help them. And this old lady, she's not like old lady. Don't tell her I told you she was old. And this lady, this auntie in the Filipino community, she was cooking for them and like she was getting them groceries and doing a lot of stuff for them. When our own government here, the very people who signed up to serve the people are not doing anything. So it actually makes you look at the perspective, like who's saying they're doing stuff but not really, and who's actually silent but actually doing stuff. And yeah, you get to know who you want to hang out with after this all ends.
Yeah, we see a lot of things through this pandemic, which is also an interesting aspect of it. So I guess my last question would be just how you would see yourself in like the 5, 10 years time, and what is your vision, or what do you want to achieve with your career as a cinematographer?
I mean, I wish I was still doing it, and I wish uh, you know uh, get more gigs out there. Maybe because Texas is not like a mainstream film industry hub. Even Austin isn't. Like we just have the Austin Film Festival, but it's not like people don't actually how like Hollywood people don't actually go to Austin just to shoot films or to Texas just to shoot films. They actually go to like other places in California or Georgia or like other countries to shoot because it always rains here and you'll never know what's the weather gonna be? So it's like super hard in here. But also, yeah, I mean, it would be nice to like be part of the film industry here, because I would say it's easier to make it here and then just move to wherever, because the industry isn't that big. And yeah, so hopefully I'm still doing it. Hopefully I'm still learning. Hopefully I'm in a much better place financially and I could do a lot of stuff. And hopefully I'm still working with more people I haven't met yet right now. But also hopefully I'm still in contact with like a lot of people who I am working with right now. And like, and I hope that we're all still like growing together and making the community stronger and learning a lot of stuff that we should be learning, or and also unlearning from ourselves, you know. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wow, thank you so much. Is there anything else that I haven't touched that you would like to share?
uh, I think, well, I don't really mention the Ellen thing a lot to like a lot of people, because like it's not like an entirely, not all of it is like the happiest moment of my life. Because a lot of it, like, there's still a lot of people out there who are like, who have like conspiracy theories, who were saying like, oh, like this is not real. They were actually hired by Ellen and McDonald's just to do this. Because I'm like that, you know. Like there's this person who made like a 20-minute, 30-minute video on YouTube just trying to disprove us. And I was like, and like some people are saying like, no, they can't be like normal people. They look like models. And I was like, how can I get mad at that? He just said I look like a model. And it's also like a lot of like stuff with like friends and like acquaintances, and like people would actually say that, oh, they know me and they hang out with me, but in real life before that happened they never talked to me and stuff like that. And there's a lot of people actually in the Asian community as well who were like, because I wasn't from here, and so that happened like a year when I arrived here, and they were like, does he actually know Ellen? Does he actually watch Ellen DeGeneres show? When in fact her show is screened in the Philippines 3 times a day in one channel. And like they it's just a lot of people trying to discredit me, and a lot of people think I didn't do anything and I just posed for the photo when I actually edited and shot it. And yeah, so that's why I don't read comment sections anymore. But yeah, so there's a lot of good stuff from it, but also like there's some stuff that's not really as good. So you actually learn who your actual friends are, who would actually call you out when you do something wrong, rather than just like patronize you with whatever you say. Because like right now, I would rather have someone call me out rather than just agree with me all the time. I guess that's also one effect of the pandemic, which like we're not just wasting time here anymore. Like any one of us could die at any moment and whatever. So if you want to say something, just say it, and just do it. And because a lot of like community work as well with organizations, there's a lot of like bureaucracy and a lot of politics. You have to go through this and that first, when a lot of stuff is actually very urgent and we have to move right now. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely a lot of the policies have, yeah, made this pandemic a little bit longer than it should have. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And yeah, really inspiring stories. And thank you for being so open-heartedly sharing. And
I'm not sure if I'm gonna get in trouble with some stuff that I said, but
we can
uh,
cut out the old lady's part.
also my parents' part.
Yeah.
They're not gonna read this, and I mean, yeah, I guess adding to it, well, like with my issue with my family being with me in the arts, is like there's sometimes that my name was on TV with the credit scene, and like they wouldn't even watch it, and like they're just in the second room watching a different show. So I'm not like very concerned about them like finding out what I said about them.
Great.
But yeah, good luck with everything with this, and like thank you for like hearing our stories. And I hope it's not like a pain to like transcribe all of this because I know that I mumble a lot and I talk a lot sometimes and like I'm all over the place. But let me know if you need any help with anything.
Mhm.
Even after the pandemic, if you need like uh, video documentation, stuff like that, like I got you.
Great. Thank you.